not. Be quiet, but Tiffany. Everybody, be quiet. That's what is wrong with you. But you're not. Stop it! I have never in my life yelled at a girl like this.
That right there is the sound of the most controversial reality show to ever hit television. And the woman running it all was Tyra Banks. She built an empire telling girls that beauty requires suffering and even ruining their lives. And instead of owning up to it, this woman literally turned around and blamed us.
But you guys were demanding it. Don't fuck up.
Like we asked for, the body shaming, the straight up racism, and the abuse happening on that show. But it all happened, and the receipts are everywhere. And now, Netflix just blew the whole thing wide open.
I haven't really said much.
So yeah, it is definitely time. Today, we are going all the way in. We are talking about all the dark, twisted stuff Tyra Banks tried to hide, right from the sexual assault that got filmed, completely covered up, and edited to look like a spicy cheating scandal, just to shoot up TV ratings.
Please tell me what you did. Just tell me.
Think of the worst possible thing I can do.
You had sex? Yeah. Oh my God, honey.
To the winner who had her crown literally snatched out of her hands right after she filmed her winning moment.
I was the winner. I filmed the scene after they told me that they weren't airing me as the winner.
To the super offensive race swap photo shoots that they forced on these girls. Not once, but 3 separate times. To the fact that they actually forced young girls into painful, permanent dental surgery just for shock value.
But yeah, they pulled these all out of my mouth.
And so much more. It's all just so crazy. How does one woman get away with messing up this many people on international TV? And how was she able to build an empire on top of this much damage?
Oh my God, I think we've built a monster.
Let's get into exactly how Tyra Banks became reality TV's biggest monster.
You want to be on top?
You really cannot understand the nightmare Tyra Banks created for these girls without understanding the exact wound it came from. When Tyra first tried to break into modeling back in the early 90s, the New York agencies did not just tell her she needed more practice. They flat out told her she was completely unsellable.
And I took them to like 6 agencies, and the first 5 said no. And finally one said yeah. Kind of hurt, you know? They were like, oh, we don't want any black girls. Oh, your nose is too big. Oh, your lips are too full. It's kind of like, you start looking in the mirror like, oh my God, am I ugly or what, you know? And then one takes you and it's like, wow, it feels good.
Tyra barely survived an industry that was completely built from the ground up to destroy her. But instead of tearing that machine down, she turned around and built her own exact version of it.
I did not know that I was going to be leading girls with self-esteem, but I did know that me being a black woman on that cover, that would move black beauty forward.
From that moment forward, everything else just fell into line. It just changed everything.
That was the beginning of, I can really take my career to a level that nobody's ever gone to before. She was sort of like this pioneer.
From the very beginning of her career, she and Naomi Campbell were violently pitted against each other because the high fashion industry back then literally only had room for one black supermodel at a time. That was the unwritten rule. And instead of fighting that completely racist structure, Tyra internalized it, took all of that pain, and directed her resentment right at Naomi.
I was tired of having to deal with you. I was tired of that pain. I was tired of the comparison. I was tired of constantly hearing that I got canceled from this job or this.
I need you to keep that exact dynamic in the back of your head, because that pattern of taking your pain out on the people next to you is going to matter a lot when we look at what she eventually did to dark-skinned women on her own show.
I think that that rivalry has made me start America's Next Top Model because I says I will never be what that represented.
By the time we got to the late 90s, Tyra had become completely unstoppable. She got her Victoria's Secret angel wings, she landed the cover of GQ, she landed Sports Illustrated. Plus, She was literally the first black woman to ever do both of those. The girl they once called too ethnic to book a basic catalog was suddenly staring at you from every single newsstand in the country. Then we get to 2003, when Tyra was at the absolute peak of her power. She had everything. But then, she suddenly just called it quits and walked away from modeling completely because she realized she didn't want to just be the product anymore. She wanted to be the person making the product. Which sounds amazing, right? It sounds like this incredible, empowering boss move, and we were all rooting her. However, what she actually did was lay the foundation for the most traumatizing empire in fashion history. So, Tyra Banks takes this idea for a reality TV show to every single major network, and every single one of them tells her no. This is majorly because the idea of reality TV already had a massive stigma back then. Executives thought it was just vapid and silly. Plus, modeling had its own double stigma because it was associated with women and beauty, so the executives automatically dismissed it as garbage. Yeah. The same guys who happily put Tyra on their magazine covers to make money genuinely did not believe she had the brains to run a business.
Tyra was given pitch meetings at all the major studios.
We went to NBC, we went to ABC, we went to CBS, we went to Fox.
If anyone was going to make the show a reality, it was her.
We pitched this model reality show everywhere. And
there was just no.
What?
No.
Networks were turning it down.
Door slamming.
They were like, oh no, reality? No.
Nope.
The main critique she kept hearing in those boardrooms was that nobody wanted to watch a show about models because models lack depth.
Stereotype with models are unsympathetic characters. They are vapid. And that stayed with me and followed me for a very, very long time.
So, the solution the determined Tyra and her producer Ken Mock came up with to fix this problem was to manufacture so much deep, personal trauma and drama that the audience at home literally could not look away.
I don't feel... Let me out of the way. Don't ever touch me again or else you will get knocked out.
Oh, I'd like to see it.
Good.
You know, I'm not mad at you for winning.
I didn't even think you were mad at me for winning.
What do you think I'm mad at you?
I don't know.
Anyway, she finally ends up taking the show to the Urban Network, which was literally the Black Channel. For anyone too young to remember, UPN was where all the black sitcoms lived in the early 2000s. Shows like The Parkers and Half and Half. It was a channel completely segregated from mainstream white programming.
Well, all of these shows aired on a TV network called UPN, which was known for its black-led sitcoms.
It was also a channel with its back completely against the financial wall. They were desperate and had absolutely nothing to lose and everything to gain. So they finally greenlighted the show.
This week has been a very interesting week in this judging room. The judges are less than impressed. As a whole, the way you all delivered...
When the first season debuted in the summer of 2003, it changed everything. A black supermodel was not just hosting the show, but she created it, and she was the executive producer. Plus, she decided to put 2 openly gay men of color at the front and center on national television. She also brought in Miss Jay Alexander as the runway coach.
I have the one and the only top runway trainer. I have known him since I was 17 years old. His name is Jay Alexander. Come out here, Jay!
These girls are extremely lucky to have Jay, the diva extraordinaire.
And she brought in Jay Manuel as the creative director.
The girls that you sat with on the bus was no coincidence. You know, when the industry meets you for the first time, they essentially categorize you.
I need you to understand that this was over a decade before same-sex marriage was even legal in the United States. The show was instantly more diverse than anything happening in the high fashion world. They somehow pull in 5 million viewers while competing with massive scripted TV budgets. And they filmed the entire thing on a shoestring budget inside 3 hotel rooms. Of course, the network was completely shook. They greenlight season 2 immediately. And this is the moment her co-creator, Ken Mok, fully enters the room. Ken Mok is the producer behind Making the Band and all those early chaotic competition shows. He is the literal architect of manufactured reality TV drama. This is the man that said the biggest disaster you can have on set is always the best thing for the show. A contestant having a 104-degree fever, throwing up, needing IV fluids? Yeah, that's the best news he could ever have. This should tell you exactly what the foundation of America's Next Top Model was built on. And Tyra Banks, the woman who kept telling us she just wanted to give girls like her a chance, built this traumatizing machine right alongside him.
I'm the creator and the executive producer of Top Model. And Top Model is a show about supermodels and what it takes to be a supermodel, the ins and outs, the grit, the grind. This is my first executive producership, and I take it very seriously. I've been talking to the lighting guy, just had a meeting with the DP yesterday, all the way down to picking the girls' clothes of what they're gonna wear for publicity shoots, and I mean, I'm very involved.
So when Netflix dropped Reality Check, Inside America's Next Top Model, a 3-part series, and Tyra said this:
I haven't really said much, but now it's time.
Many people genuinely thought she was about to blow the lid off this entire franchise. We thought we were finally getting a real reckoning for what happened to these women. But what did we actually get?
You remember the story with Shandy?
I do remember her story. It's a little difficult for me to talk about production because that's not my territory.
I cannot watch enough of that. Like and I've edited it, I've seen it a million times, and every time
We got 3 stressful hours of Tyra Banks performing accountability while delivering none of it.
Yeah, why did you do that? Okay, Tyra said, yeah, she made some shit, she did some shit, you know, she said some shit. And I thank you for that. That is the only way you change. That is the only way you get better, is by somebody calling you out on your shit. It is important. And I want to let you know that I want you guys to be just as open as I am now about getting called on my shit, but when somebody calls you out on yours. Because that day will come and continue to evolve. Because that's what we're all doing.
Every single bad thing that happened on that set, oh, that was not her department. That was production. That was Ken. That was the network. That was just the culture of a different time. And the wildest excuse she uses? She blames you. She literally blames the audience for demanding to see these girls suffer.
It's a time in the world where there was a show, Fear Factor and Survivor and all of these things of like pushing the limits and all of that. And so we kept pushing and we kept creating more and more and more. You guys were demanding it. The viewers wanted more and more and more.
What audience is she even talking about? Is she talking about the children who are watching this show after school?
I'm not really sure why I'm getting the blame. I was 10. Tyra, you're a grown woman. Thank you.
No accountability whatsoever. The documentary is just a total masterclass in corporate gaslighting. See, you need to know what it was actually like to exist inside this machine this woman created every single day. The very second you get cast on the show, you are put on something they call ICE. It was a total communications blackout. They throw you in a blacked out van and take you to a windowless room. You don't know where you are, you don't know what time it is, and you don't even know what day it is.
They controlled when we went to the bathroom, when we ate, when we slept, when we were allowed to speak to each other. They isolated us from our friends and family. We weren't allowed to have magazines, we weren't allowed to have newspapers, we weren't allowed to have anything that showed what day it was or what time it was. Down to using the same phrase over and over again. If you violate the confidentiality agreement, we will dock your wages for the rest of your life. We will dock your wages for the rest of your life. We will dock your wages for the rest of your life.
You had to actively ask for permission just to use the bathroom. And sometimes, the producers just told you no. They would even withhold your food for hours at a time just to mess with your head.
The psychological tests are another thing that surprised a lot of people. I really can't stress how hard they pressured us to divulge all of our childhood trauma. Like, you really felt like if you had the right trauma, they would let you be on the show. If the cameras weren't on you, you weren't allowed to talk to the other contestants or at all. It's called being on ice. If a girl broke that rule enough, they would start to punish all of them.
And the casting criteria wasn't even about whether or not you could actually model. It was purely about your trauma. They interviewed these girls for hours, dug through their medical records and their family histories until they found exactly where they were most broken. And then they built entire episodes directly around triggering those specific wounds.
We were not paid at all. We did not get any residuals. We didn't get any money except for a stipend that we had to use to pay for our own food.
Just for $37 a day. That is the daily budget they gave these girls to buy their own food. And that massive $100,000 grand prize they dangled over these girls, it is not a check they hand you at the end.
A $100,000 contract does not mean a $100,000 check. It was actually just the promise of the opportunity to do $100,000 worth of work over a year.
Also, if something happens along the line and the agency decides they can't find you enough work, they are under absolutely no obligation to pay you the rest of the money.
But there was a clause that said that if circumstances arise and that work can't be provided, they were under no obligation to pay you.
Now throw in the fact that judging panels could take up to 18 grueling hours to film. You are dealing with sleep-deprived, starving girls who are completely cut off from the outside world, being psychologically dismantled by a panel of judges for almost a full day. That is the actual machine they built. And that was before a single photo shoot even started. The show's entire brand was sold to us on this big, progressive premise. Tyra Banks is here to dismantle toxic beauty standards. But let's actually look at what was happening on that judging panel.
You have to put on more makeup as a woman of color. Our skin absorbs the light. It doesn't reflect the light. Here is your best shot.
Overall, this picture is just bland. You look like a deer in the headlights in this picture.
Perfect almond shape eyes. There's nothing coming behind it. Let's see your unretouched shot. It's like a Hitchcock film. Go back and forth really fast to see what I mean. What are you feeling right now, Kelly? You look a little... It's very shocking to see it like this. The people that usually see my skin tell me that I have beautiful skin.
The plus-size models never won the early seasons. The short girls got eliminated specifically for being too short.
It was a little bit damaging to see them editing me eating the same bagel, for example, showing me eating it as if I've eaten 3 different bagels, but it really was the same one.
You're really gaining a little weight. You can see that. No? Yeah. Should be careful of that. Just try and pull it in a little more.
It was definitely hard to see that maybe when I was just enjoying myself, having no idea that the cameras were really zooming in on certain areas, it definitely was a little bit damaging to watch with all of America to see that narrative play out.
And then there is Danielle, a gorgeous black woman with a gap in her teeth who gets told to her face that her natural smile isn't marketable. Tyra literally told her that if she doesn't go to the dentist and get her gap closed, she is packing her bags and going home.
When Tyra called my name, she was like, so if I decide to keep you, are you gonna get your gap closed? And then that's when I was like, so what you're saying to me is, if I don't get my gap closed, you're gonna send me home.
So Danielle, you went to the dentist, but you refused to have your gap closed. Do you really think you can have a cover girl contract with the gap in your mouth?
Yeah, why not?
This is all people see. It's easier to do for cover girl. It's not marketable.
I don't want to completely close it.
Well, I guess she just left the gap wide open for another girl, babe.
The ultimatum is crystal clear. Close the gap or you lose your dream. So Danielle goes to the dentist and closes it.
Well, I guess she just left the gap wide open for another girl, baby.
I agree. But get them teeth done? All the way. Completely. I think all the way. Congratulations.
And when I went back to the house, I called my mom immediately, just because she was always my voice of reason, always. And I was like, this is what's happening. Like, what should I do? She said to me, I'll be here to welcome you home if you don't get your gap closed, but you know you're gonna come home if you don't get your gap closed. Like, is it worth it? Basically, is what my mom was saying. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. There's no going home for me. I did not come all the way from little bitty Little Rock, Arkansas to get turned around and go home. That's not an option.
But here is the part that actually makes me sick. Because a few seasons after Tyra shames Danielle into closing her gap, they bring in a white model, and they actively decide to widen her gap.
And the irony is that a few seasons later, you love your teeth. Tyra's like, we're gonna widen that gap.
We'd love to exaggerate that and take you a little bit more to Lauren.
Make it as big as you want it. She already had a tooth gap, and then they went in and surgically widened it permanently.
They literally tell the white girl they want to exaggerate her gap to make her look more high fashion. Why didn't they think the same for Danielle? Also, while you'd be glad that Danielle actually ends up winning her cycle, she sadly was unable to work. She struggled for years because the fashion industry didn't want anything to do with a reality TV star.
No one wanted to book me for their shows because I was viewed as like this reality star, and designers didn't want me walking in their show to take attention, if you will, off of their collection and onto myself. And so I knew very early on that, oh, top model has a stigma.
And years later, Tyra had the absolute nerve to call her on the phone.
What angers me the most is the conversation that Tyra had with me years later. She told me that, she's like, I knew that there were certain doors that you couldn't even get into because you did top model, and I did nothing about it.
Tyra had every single connection in the fashion industry, and she just sat back. The woman who constantly told us the show was about giving girls like her a chance, watched Danielle struggle, and did nothing to help her. The diversity on this show was purely decorative. It was not real. Janice Dickinson was literally hired just to be the Simon Cowell of the panel, sitting there every week, fat-shaming girls who were already dangerously thin.
Let's just call it as it is. Robin, first of all, is too old to be starting model.
She's huge. She's not going to be a top model.
She won't. That's the reality.
She should work for a car toppling company.
You know, Janice offered that very harsh opinion that
Always speaking on their bodies, and not in a kind way.
Supermodel.
Absolutely not. This girl is
Absolutely not. That's my whole line. Because I think of the next America's top model is not a plus-size model. I'm sorry, that's my opinion. I like Robin. She's near perfection. I just wish her upper body was bigger and matched her lower body better. Elise.
When Whitney Thompson finally became the show's first plus-size winner in Cycle 10, she cried in the shower every single day. And it wasn't because the competition was too hard. She cried in the shower because it was literally the only room in the house without a camera in it. And remember Takara from Cycle 3? She was thick, she was beautiful, she literally looked like Megan Thee Stallion, but she had the exact same situation happen to her. They had no clothes that fit her.
What size did you tell me you are? A 12 or is it really a 14?
I feel like I work at a bowling alley.
No, you don't.
I don't know why all the girls were so nice looking, and here I am looking like I work at Home Depot.
She even got hurt while at it.
Do you think that I'm going to be able to get a rack like this loaded with clothes in your size?
You can't find something in my size, so I'm supposed to feel bad because
You're taking everything as a negative. I don't think that you realize how this whole modeling thing works. There's like no appreciation. All right, you got pinched. Oh my God.
She actually said something about it. She stood up for herself and asked for basic respect. And what happened? She got eliminated, and they branded her as hard to work with.
I think it's just hard because I'm steady, just trying to be so grateful. Just be so grateful, but it hurts.
Then a few cycles later, they bring in Whitney, who was white, blonde, and didn't complain as much about the treatment. You can connect the dots on that one yourself.
They would pull out my
My clothes last, I wouldn't even have a rack. All the girls would have racks of clothes. They would have options. And it was like, here, this is what you're going to wear. I remember even when we did a shoot for La Perla, we had to do the lingerie. There was nothing in my size. I can't fit their bras, their underwears. I had to wear a robe. And I don't even know if the robe was the correct size, right? I think I was busting out of the robe.
This show was simultaneously propagandizing an entire generation of viewers, young children, into having disordered relationships with their bodies. The psychological damage did not just stay on that set. It went home with every single viewer. How could Tyra completely forget that when she spent the entire beginning of her career fighting against this exact same treatment?
Me looking like this and like this and all of that. And everyone seems to be pretty okay with that. But for some reason, people had a serious problem when I looked like that. All right? When I look like that. Women that sometimes or all the time look like this. Women whose names you know. Women whose names you don't. Women who've been picked on. Women whose husbands put them down. Women at work or girls in school. I have one thing to say to you. Kiss my fat ass.
The verbal body shaming was horrific enough, but then the show decided to actually get medical with it. In cycle 6, Joni gets sent to the dentist for a makeover. They literally rip out 4 of her teeth on camera. Then her front teeth get shaved down to tiny little pegs and crowns are placed on top.
To do something about that snaggle tooth or that gap tooth and perfect your smile.
I was like winning the lottery. I was like, I'm down to do it because I was always really self-conscious about my teeth. I'm like, okay, let's go.
The shit that girl went through, horrific. What were these for?
Today?
Today.
Oh, I was young and kind of just along for the ride. I had to sign a separate release right then and there too. Couldn't talk to my mom about it, couldn't call a lawyer or anything like that. I didn't go all night.
Oh, that was really intense. What Joey went through.
Oh Lord, insane. I have them actually. Here they are. This one used to be right here. Pulled these all out of my mouth and then they shaved from here to here.
Snack moments are watching. Okay.
Where you have all my front teeth grinding down to pencil point.
Oh my god. I still remember her looking at the camera and saying, look at what they did.
Look at my teeth.
It was insane.
She literally described it as winning the lottery because she couldn't afford dental care any other way, which is absolutely not the cute empowerment arc the show wanted us to hear. It means she was a young woman who got cornered into having permanent, irreversible surgery on a reality show because American healthcare is an absolute nightmare, and that was her only way to get it fixed. And to this day, she still has bite issues from that rushed procedure.
Just repeating, they don't fix anything. They were many problems that were never fixed. I still got a crazy bite issue, and those issues will never be resolved. It was fucked up, but at the end of the day, I was a grown adult woman with teeth I thought I would never fix.
This means they pushed a girl into major surgery in less than a week, on television, entirely for beauty, without any care for her health. That's insane. And now we really have to talk about the race swap shoots. And I need to stress this as clearly as possible. They did not do this once. They did not do this twice. They did this 3 separate times.
We are actually going to switch your ethnicities. Tiffany, you're going to be Native American. Brittany, an African American woman. Kenya, Korean. And Noelle, we're making you into a traditionally African woman with a head wrap and everything.
We start in cycle 4, 2004, when they put a white model in explicit, undeniable blackface.
Hey, real cute, Fred. Got milk?
Got milk?
In the new documentary, Tyra tries to claim that this was just her unique way of showing the world that brown and black is beautiful.
I didn't think it was controversial. I was in my own little bubble, in my own little head. If this was my way of showing the world that brown and black is beautiful. But then we put it out there and the world was like, are you crazy? Have you lost your mind?
But people were not quiet about this. Major publications were actively calling it out the second it aired back in 2004. People knew it was deeply offensive immediately.
They did ask you blackface. What is the goal with this photo shoot? What is it?
It's hard to wrap your head around how this actually managed to get on the air.
I'm calling my best friend at commercial break like, girl, did you see that? What the hell is going on? Did the industry make them do this? Did the industry make them come up with this photo shoot?
What I don't hear a lot of people talking about really is the fact that...
So they got completely dragged by the public. You would think they learned their lesson, right? Absolutely not.
You girls are going to undergo a transformation and actually have to portray two very different, distinct races.
Laura, you're gonna be Mexican and Greek.
Yeah, they just did it again in cycle 13 and again in cycle 17.
Was the fact that they decided to do a Michael Jackson-inspired photo shoot where each of the models had to portray a different era of Michael Jackson. And since there were Caucasian models who were participating this season, what do you think they did with them? Yeah, they put some of them in blackface. They chose to have these models portray Michael Jackson by darkening their skin tone, and it was as bad as you can imagine.
The absolute audacity to get dragged by the entire internet, look at your producers and say, let's do it again. They had 3 separate chances across 7 whole years to stop and think about what they were doing, and 3 times they pushed the green button anyway. Let me be super clear and fair about something. Having Miss J and J Manuel front and center on national television before same-sex marriage became legal was genuinely a radical move. Tyra deserves full credit for that. After all, the closest thing we had to gay representation back then was Will and Grace, which was a scripted sitcom. But Tyra put real, visibly queer men of color on television and let them be completely beloved. That actually matters.
Loved Miss J.
Forgot to brush her teeth. We had this natural banter. Jay loves to do an expression and an eye roll. And I feed into it. Like we literally just fold together like this.
Don't listen to her. She's crazy. She just up gray and green. What a combination.
And then there was a support. Because it was like gay Wonder Twins activate. We were together, so they can't attack us. Again, I know it sounds ridiculous today, but it was such a different time.
But the treatment of the actual queer contestants, that was a completely different story. Ebony didn't even get to tell her own coming out story on her own terms. Tyra completely ambushed her and told it for her on camera.
When I went on that show, I knew people would be against anything that I represent, being a black woman that's gay or whatever it is, but I did think that I would be protected.
Like, production just forgot about the danger of outing someone on national TV in 2003. They didn't care. If Ebony was in physical danger back home because of it, that just meant better ratings. That was just more material for them to exploit. And then, what happened to Shandy Sullivan is one of the most serious, terrifying things that happened on this show, but they packaged it and turned it into entertainment. We are in cycle 2. Shandy is this sweet, small-town girl from the Midwest. She is in a long-term relationship with her boyfriend, Eric. She's a massive frontrunner. They go to Italy for the finale. Production invites a group of male models back to the hotel. There is a hot tub. There is a lot of alcohol. Shandy drinks way too much and completely blacks out. Then, a male model follows her to the bathroom and into the bedroom. They have sex, and the camera crew literally films all of it.
No one did anything to stop it. And it all got filmed, all of it. Every moment of it.
If you are blackout drunk, in and out of consciousness, you cannot consent to sex. That is assault. Full stop. That is what happened on camera on America's Next Top Model. She was assaulted, and the sound guy and the camera guy literally walked up to Shandy the next morning and apologized, telling her they were really, really sorry they had to film that.
We're really, really sorry that we had to film that.
They knew exactly what they were doing, and you cannot tell me otherwise. The next morning, production refuses to give her a phone to call her boyfriend Eric until she physically threatens to quit the show entirely. Then, they finally hand her a phone with one sick condition, that they have to record the call.
Tell me.
It's like the worst possible thing I can do.
What's that?
Yeah.
Oh my God, honey. Are you okay? I can't be with someone that cheated on me. What do you want me to do? What can I say to this? How can I hug you? You think about how we wanted to be together forever. And you throw it away. You stupid bitch.
And then it gets worse. On the Tyra Banks show, Tyra invites Shandy on as a guest. Shandy explicitly tells her she does not want to see the footage, but Tyra plays it for her anyway, right in front of a live studio audience.
She was asking me about what happened in Milan. And I told her I'd never seen it. It just brought up too many things, and then I was like, I can't watch the show anymore. And then she just puts it on the screen in front of me.
I'm gonna roll a little clip that a lot of us remember.
And I don't look at it. She's like, I noticed you weren't looking.
Sandy, you weren't watching that. I saw you looking down. How come you can't watch that?
I just can't do it.
Really? It brings back like all the old stuff.
Oh yeah. I'm like, I literally told you behind the scenes, like, don't, I've never seen it. I don't want to see it. Don't show it. You didn't respect that.
And then she actually goes on to drill her about the boyfriend and ask her why she is single.
Everybody wants to know, are you still with your boyfriend? I'm single now. You're single? Yeah. Why did you guys break up? Well, he couldn't get over it. He couldn't get over that. But you guys were together for I remember after you were together.
Me and Eric, we tried. We really tried. I mean, he moved with me to New York after the show. But it would suck when I'd be walking with Eric down the street and somebody recognized me and called me a slut to my face. Or a cheating whore. Eric standing right next to me. That was fun. It made me hate myself.
It made Shandy completely hate herself. They literally weaponized her lowest, most traumatic moment and packaged it for daytime TV ratings. In the documentary, Tyra's response when this comes up was, "That wasn't my department. That was production. I wasn't part of the filming team."
You remember the story, Miss Shandy? I do remember her story. It's a little difficult for me to talk about production because that's not my territory.
You were in the editing bay, Tyra. You built the narrative. You signed off on playing it on the Tyra Banks show. You aren't innocent.
When it came to that Shandy moment, first of all, she struggles to remember it, which I find hard to believe because how many times did she bring Shandy on her talk show to kind of force her to watch that scene? I was with Tyra. We were in the production office when we found out what was going on at the girl's house. Someone got off the phone with the director on set and they basically said, oh my God, Shandy's having sex with someone in the shower, one of the male models. The crew have no choice. They were literally forced to shoot her. And of course they were gonna figure out how ultimately they were gonna play this on the episode. I remember Tyra going to, I guess, speak with Ken or call Ken or something like that. So I wasn't privy to that conversation. Ken was the executive producer. Ken and Tyra made that call.
The way they treated Shandy on that show was pure evil.
I feel that just was a step too far, was filming her go to the doctor. That part was just terrible, especially because she threatened to quit the show. And if she quits the show, just so you know, they have to let her quit and not shoot her anymore. So they had to find a way to get her to stay, and then they kept shooting her. So the manipulation was just brutal.
They used intense psychological manipulation tactics to trap her in that house and force her to suffer on camera just to sell commercials. You would think after a situation that dark, production would step up and actually start protecting these girls from the men they brought on set. But just 2 cycles later, they proved they didn't care at all. We are in South Africa for cycle 4. Kemia Hill is trying to get through a photo shoot, but the male model she is paired with starts getting way too aggressive. He is actively grabbing her thigh and literally moaning right into her ear.
This male model, he was flirting with me. He was grinding on me. I felt like he really crossed the line.
If someone is harassing you, then it can manifest itself in the photos, but it doesn't show. It's extremely professional.
I feel a lot of pressure added on to me because I can end up being eliminated.
So, she does exactly what you are supposed to do. She pauses the shoot completely professionally. She doesn't make a massive scene. She just tells the photographer she is uncomfortable.
I know it's not about feeling comfortable, but hearing moaning, it just threw me off.
Moaning where?
Like on me. Like, I'm sorry, I just didn't feel comfortable.
And how does production react? They actually get mad at her. They force her to finish the shoot and complain that she ruined the vibe on set.
The looks on their faces were just like, how dare you stop our production?
We're here in a professional situation. There are like 50 of us sitting here on set.
Right.
Then she gets to the judging panel, and Tyra literally looks this girl in the face and tells her she handled it wrong. She says Kenya should have used her feminine wiles and told the guy to back up in a fun way to avoid creating static in the room.
Your feminine wiles, like, boy, you best to back up before I knock you upside the head. But you do it in a fun way where he knows to back the heck up.
Plus, when the judges are looking through all the film to pick her best shot of the week, they purposely choose the exact photo where he is visibly grabbing her leg.
I thought that was the best advice, but it should have been stop down. And that's what would happen today. We now all understand the protections that women need. And so I say to Kenya, boo-boo, I am so sorry. None of us knew. Network executives didn't know.
She was the executive producer. She was in the editing bay. She literally chose the photo. And even Nigel Barker sits there making excuses, trying to say this is just the reality of the modeling world.
Some of those things are also kind of the reality of the world. You know, unfortunately, in the fashion industry, there's always been a lot of issues with, you know, sort of harassment in every sort of shape or way, whether you're a male model or a female model, actually. You know, not everyone is going to handle the same situation in the same way, but you as an individual should be able to stand up for yourself and say, hey, no, this isn't working, or, you know, or figure it out and just get the job done. I mean, there's people and cameras everywhere.
Instead of protecting a young girl in their care, these fully grown adults completely gaslit her for not smiling through sexual harassment. The show demands that you smile through literal abuse, but the second you try to stay positive during an elimination, Tyra completely loses her mind. Which brings us to the clip that literally broke the internet in 2020. This is the exact moment that started the entire modern reckoning with this franchise. Tiffany Richardson gets eliminated, and instead of sobbing and performing a massive breakdown for the cameras like the show expects her to, she tries to keep it light. She laughs a little and tries to comfort the other girls, because that is just how she processes pain.
I'm extremely disappointed in you. This is a joke to you. You've been through anger management. You've been through your grandmother getting her lights turned off to buy you a swimsuit for this competition. And you go over there and you joke and you laugh. This is serious to these girls. And this should be serious to you.
Looks can be deceiving. I'm hurt. I am. But I can't change it, Tyra. I've been...
Yes, you can.
No,
you can't change what?
I'm sick of crying about stuff that I cannot change. I'm sick of being disappointed. I'm sick of all of it. I'm not.
You're not sick of being disappointed,
Yeah,
Tiffany.
obviously I am.
No, you're not. If you were sick of being disappointed...
And her refusing to perform that trauma on command is exactly what sets Tyra off.
I don't have a bad attitude. Maybe I am angry inside. I've been through stuff, so I'm angry.
Yes, but it's not, this is not, be quiet,
but
Tiffany.
everybody
Be
knows
quiet!
That's
What is
I'm
wrong
not
with
trying
you?
to act, but you're not.
Stop it! I have never in my life yelled at a girl like this. When my mother yells at this, it's because she loves me. I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. How dare you? Learn something from this. When you go to bed at night, you lay there and you take responsibility for yourself, because nobody's going to take responsibility for you. You roll in your eyes and you act like this because you've heard it all before. You've heard it all before. You don't know where the hell I come from. You have no idea what I've been through. But I'm not a victim. I grow from it and I learn. Take responsibility for yourself.
But let's be entirely real. Crying is not the only way grief looks, especially for Black women who've spent their entire lives being told they have to stay composed in public just to survive.
Tyra really scared all of us. Like, we literally jumped out of our seats.
And how does Tyra try to explain this away in the new documentary? She actually claims she yelled at her because she loved her so much.
I went too far. You know, I lost it. It was probably bigger than her. It was family, friends, society, Black girls, all the challenges that we have. So many people saying that we're not good enough. I think all that was in that moment. That's some Black girl stuff that goes real deep inside of me. but I knew I went too far.
Right. She was so filled with love that production had to physically drag her out of the room. She was so filled with love that corporate lawyers had to show up on set the very next week.
When they were done shooting, production staff literally just like took Tyra off set.
It was very scary. It was like she went off, and Tyra never went off.
Because what aired in that famous clip was heavily edited to protect Tyra. The reality in that room was 1,000 times worse. Tyra literally screamed at Tiffany that she could go back to her house and sleep on a mattress on the floor with her baby. She attacked a young mother's poverty. She attacked her child. And then production chopped the footage up in the editing room to make Tyra look like a passionate, tough love mentor. But the warfare didn't stop in that room. Production literally made these girls pose as gruesome crime scene corpses with these elaborate, sick storylines. In the documentary, Ken Mock actually steps up and takes the heat for this one. He admits it was a mistake and calls it a celebration of violence. This is one of the only things Ken Mock apologizes for in 3 hours of documentary, which makes everything he doesn't apologize for even more damning. Because here's what he completely ignores. Dion Walters, a contestant who told production during her intake interview that her mother had been shot and paralyzed. They knew her specific, deepest trauma, and then they put her in a photo shoot where she had to pose as a gunshot victim. They had her files. They had her medical history. They built a shoot around her absolute worst nightmare and pointed the cameras at her face, hoping she would crumble for the drama. What about Kaylin in Cycle 4? Hours after finding out a close friend just died, production instructs her to climb into a grave and pose inside a coffin. And it wasn't just emotional torture. They constantly put these girls in actual physical danger. Cycle 14, the pendulum runway. They swing a massive, heavy wrecking ball right across the runway while the models are trying to walk in heels.
She fell twice. I was like, oh my gosh. She got hit. Oh, she got hit off the runway.
Okay, you recovered well. You got up and you rocked your boat there. Beautiful.
Or what about Carity English in Cycle 7? They forced her into a freezing cold swimming pool. She was in there for so long that she started violently convulsing. Medics literally had to pull her out of the water because she is going into hypothermia.
Carity actually had to stop because she was so cold that she was kind of convulsing.
As a model,
but she is still the one who gets blamed.
You need to tell people when you're past your limit. It wasn't just that she was cold. It wasn't just that her teeth were chattering. She had reached the moment of hypothermia.
They pushed her into a freezing pool for a photo, almost killed her, and then blamed her to completely dodge the liability. And after all that trauma, the people running the show are the only ones getting paid. Adrienne Curry won the very first season. They promised her a huge Revlon contract and a massive modeling career. But the network just pushed the contract off for 8 months. Then they dragged her back for Cycle 2 and ordered her to look at the audience and lie. They made her say her life had changed. It hadn't.
When I won the show, I thought I was going to be a huge Revlon cover girl. So they push off me getting this Revlon prize for like 8 months. I went on season 2 of Top Model where they told me to lie and tell them how great my life was.
The line they used to string her along, "Your contract is still coming." Well, it never came. Imagine surviving that entire psychological meat grinder. You win the crown, and you get absolutely nothing. Just empty promises and a ruined reputation. And then there's Angelia Preston. This one is genuinely heartbreaking.
I won this show. Couldn't believe it. Like, oh my God.
Angelia applied for this show multiple times and got rejected every single time. She finally gets cast on Cycle 17 All-Stars, and she wins.
I can move and I can network properly, you know?
This is great.
Then producers find out she previously worked as an escort before coming on the show and completely strip her of her title.
The attorney for CBS is there. The casting director, Michelle Mock, is there. And was like, now we need to get down to business. I'm like, oh, okay. We can't air you as the winner. And I was like, why? Because you were engaging in sex work.
They reshoot the entire finale and crown Lisa D'Amato as the winner instead. But Angelia was not just a former escort. She is a trafficking survivor. She was young, she was desperate, she was at rock bottom, and she got taken advantage of.
Production was scared that I was going to go to the media and tell the ending. So the executive producer was like, well, the next season we have Next Model Management and we'll help you if you get a contract. Just please don't tell. No one helped me.
And the show knew that. So when we sit through all of this, what comes out of Tyra's mouth shouldn't have happened at all, but it did.
You have no idea what we have planned for Cycle 25.
It's almost like she used the documentary as a 3-hour soft launch for a brand new season, and she desperately needs us to forgive her just enough to watch it. And while some people are rightfully disgusted and want absolutely no part of it,
baby, you can keep that Cycle 25. I'm gonna tell you right now, we don't want it.
Some people are already excited for it. They are ready to watch the machine turn back on. Ready to watch a brand new cast of young girls get thrown right back into the exact same meat grinder.
So I heard that America's Next Top Model is back for Cycle 25, and if we're gonna be back for Cycle 25, it can't just be like a normal cycle, just throwing it back. We need to go.
And honestly, we just never learn.
But I think at the end of the day, no matter how dark some of these things or traumas that we went through, I think that there's always going to be people who would sign up.
Oh yeah.
So it doesn't even matter.